Good morning, everyone. I'm very pleased to be here with you today to share some perspectives around the commercial world. So I'm Carlos Rodrigues, managing UK and Ireland markets for Renault Trucks, just insisting on the trucks piece, because this morning it has been a lot about cars. One thing as well, Renault Trucks has nothing to do with Renault Cars as a business. We are a separate group. Again, just to clarify this. Before starting my presentation, yes, I'm going to ask you something, is to take a breath and think about, we are now entering the commercial world. So people who move stuff, as Michael said, think about this from a capital investment perspective. They buy a truck to make money out of that truck. It's capital investment. So we need, this morning we heard a lot about clarity and consistency. Well, it's even more true in a world of capital investment, because you need to plan this big amounts of money of investment quite a long time ahead. So today, the theme of today was moving mountains. Well, what you see on the screen is electric mixer. So you can see that we're already moving concrete using electricity or battery electric vehicle. And what you see here is the conclusion of a strong partnership between a manufacturer, a customer, and a bodybuilder. Because something we need to take into account, and most people don't know, on the commercial world, there is something that goes on the back of the truck, which most of the time, 50% of the market, is something which is done locally in the UK, which reinforces this need of partnership. We heard this morning about sustainability and the lightweight. Well, when doing this truck, it was all about innovation. Going back to the drawing board, blank sheet of paper, how can we rethink an electric mixer? So effectively, transitioning to battery electric vehicles in the commercial world is a challenge, and we'll see what are these challenges. But more importantly, it's a huge opportunity for all operators and all customers who enter this journey to actually create a competitive advantage. What we see in the UK, though, is that heavy-duty vehicles are falling behind the curve when it comes to electrification compared to buses, vans, and cars. And it's great that we see all this positive development. Buses, we see them all around our streets today. Well done to the bus industry, and I think we'll have someone at the panel later today with myself talking about this. For the past 3 years, we've been talking to a lot of customers since we brought the first commercial heavy-duty goods vehicles to the UK market. And what you see here is a snapshot of what are the key blockers which are stopping actually this acceleration. The first and foremost one is affordability for the operator. And yes, a commercial electric vehicle is a huge capital investment. It requires a lot of investment from a charging perspective. I'd like you to think of something. When you think about your home, you think about buying an electric vehicle which has a size of a battery of 60 kilowatt, 40 kilowatt, 50 kilowatts. Well, guess what? Every time we put a truck to a customer at his depot, it's 4 times that. So if he has 10 trucks, it's 40 cars. So you understand immediately the challenges which comes with infrastructure in the commercial world and how important support to this development and investment is needed. And OEMs also, we cannot subsidize all this investment because we have to carry on, as in the car, investing in the current technology, in internal combustion engines, because they will still be around for a bit of time. But we also have to invest in battery electric vehicles to continue to develop that technology, but also hydrogen vehicles. The next point which always comes is the infrastructure, and I already touched a bit on it. And the issue is the energy distribution. As I said, when you put all that amount of power requirement at a depot of a customer, think about the consequences around how much power you have at site. We can find the power from the grid somewhere, but to bring it back to the depot, this is where we have a lot of challenges with the response time from DNOs, for instance, which is sometimes quite a complex process and lengthy process for customers and operators. Of course, from an OEM perspective, we had to bring vehicles to the market, and we had to have the right range of vehicles ready to be on the market and used by customers. And since 2020, that's what we have done. We are now at roughly 60%, we believe, of the applications can be covered by vehicles electric in the UK. The next one is about the clarity around hydrogen. I think it was Lynn who mentioned before the energy mix. Yes, hydrogen is part of the solution. We, Renault Trucks, will and are developing hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, which will come to market before the end of this decade. But hydrogen is not the solution, and I think I want to make that clear. A lot of people think, I'm going to wait for hydrogen because I just think it's the solution for me. We are very clear. Battery electric vehicle first, hydrogen when electrification cannot be operated, and on the long run, ICE engines will still remain, but at that point, they will be operated with some sort of biofuels, biogas, HVO, name it, plenty of them around. So let's be clear, and let's again bring clarity to the different fuels that are available. Last one, but not the least, change in the environment to move decarbonization up the list of the operators, priority list. That actually is quite a challenge. So let's sit in the shoes of a customer for once and think about this operator. Today, is just to invest in a more expensive truck requiring a lot of infrastructure at his depot. He needs a lot of time to think about all of that because most of operators don't have a sustainable person, don't have a real estate individual in charge of doing all of that. That's people out there who are actually transporting goods every day. They don't have the brain power to do all of this. The legislation today says that by 2035, everything below 26 tons has to be zero tailpipe emissions. So why on earth would someone with all the pressures that they have today, driver shortages, interest rates, inflation, name it, start by thinking electrification or zero tailpipe emissions is the good thing? We need to help them. The government needs to be braver and bring the solutions, create the environment to make sure that actually they see this as an opportunity and not a challenge. And I like to say that I have hope, actually, because we have the recipe. This is my favorite one, bin lorry. So for those who don't know that, there is 2,000 bin lorries registered every year in the UK. The average fuel consumption of a bin lorry is 2 to 3 miles per gallon. Those from Europe is about 80 liters per 100 kilometers. So that's quite a lot of fuel. Well, let's be brave. The government and the bus industry has done great. They have pledged earlier this year to give 200 million additional for the bus industry. 200 million is for actually an increment of 1,000 buses. That's 200,000 pounds per bus incremental. I'm not saying I want that for truck, but yes, I do. But actually, think about that. These trucks, bin lorries, this isn't a gift of the authorities. They operate in the same environment as buses. They are all around. So let's clean the streets, let's clean the air, and let's reduce CO2. We have the recipe. Despite that, there is a lot of customers in the UK who actually started a journey. And maybe some of them are in the room today. But you have here a snapshot of all these vehicles operating today in the UK. They are all from the UK. You might recognize some brands, and they are all operating in the UK. So the electrification journey has started in the UK on the commercial vehicle side. But we need to help them. Most of them want to accelerate. But we need to actually signify to them that what they have done is great, right? Let's demonstrate to them that actually the CO2 savings that they are making mean something. This is good for society. Let's help them. Let's recognize that these businesses have done the right thing. Let's confirm the ZERVed program. What a great initiative a year ago. Still waiting on the outcome. Maybe today. We don't know. Let's add another one, very technical, but for you to understand this. In the commercial vehicle world, it's all about the payload and how much you transport. Two big challenges today. There is no certainty about dispensation at payload at 32 ton and 44 ton. Back to clarity. Let's be clear with operators. and customers. They need to understand what are the rules of the game, long-term in advance, because otherwise this will create massive disruption in the commercial world if at 32 tons and 44 tons we can't find a solution. And we all understand the complexity and the infrastructure challenges about these elements, but some clarity needs to be brought. Let's communicate the pipeline of energy available as well and make this clear to them. Let's make the plug-in grand vehicle scheme fit for purpose and make it simple. There is a merit, there is one, but it's very difficult to get to it and understand the rules of the game. So let's make that happen. And then let's create that environment that is favorable for battery electric vehicles and zero tailpipe vehicles in the UK. It's very nice for me to stand here and say, this is what has to be done. So Carlos, what are you doing yourself and your business? So we are also in our journey to decarbonize our business. We've made a pledge with, in the UK, for all the retail outlets that we have in the UK, private businesses, some that, most of them I don't own actually, it's actually private partners, SMEs. They have engaged with ourselves in that pledge that by 2030 we will be carbon neutral in the UK on our scope 1 and scope 2. That's quite a big challenge and investment for these SMEs. And we are on the journey. We have reduced already by 30% in 2019 that carbon footprint on scope 1 and 2. This is our long-term journey and what's going to impact the scope 3 of our customers, for those who are familiar with science-based targets. So this is our journey and how we see the development of a zero carbon transport solution portfolio. By 2040, we will be 100% fossil-free. By 2030, 50% of what we sell will be electric. These are high ambitions, and they need to be supported by the government, as we have invested a lot of money as OEMs, and most OEMs here in the room today. We need the support to gain economies of scale and to accelerate. As you see in the screen, again, battery electric first, fuel cell, and then ICE. The three, that will be a blend of energy, not one size fits all in the commercial world. And the reason for this is you need to look at two aspects. First, the environmental impact of the technology. All of them have some positive development around, reducing CO2 and stuff like that, but BEV are by far the best when you look at all the elements. NOx, noise, CO2 impact, for instance, by far the best compared to hydrogen. And that's why we think electricity first. This is difficult, as we have understood in the commercial world. And over 3 years, what we are doing is supporting customers through that journey. And partnership, as our CEO says most of the time, partnership is the new leadership. Even more in the commercial world, where you have understood that we need to not only put together a vehicle, but work with the bodybuilders, those who actually bring something to the vehicle, because that's what matters for the customer. The charging infrastructure, which is another level compared to the car industry, far more complex, far more demanding from a power perspective. So this is how we approach customers, 4 steps to help them get to the next stage. This is the range of vehicles that we provide today in the market, up to 44 tons, as you can see, and even starting with a cargo bike that we're doing in partnership with a startup in France and can be available in the UK if required. So with this, we believe, as I said, 60% of the application in the UK can be covered. So let's start now. The market in the UK is between 40 to 45,000 trucks a year. 60% of that is about 24,000. Let's take that challenge and start now. Now, to conclude, I think everyone in this room recognizes the importance of addressing this issue. OEMs and operators were all very supportive to this transition. That's the feedback we get from all the customers we speak to. But there are costs, and nobody wants to speak about these costs. But they exist, and somehow they need to pass on. And it's not a great time to be increasing the cost of goods, isn't it? So we have a recipe. We know how this can be worked out, and we have a good blueprint with buses. So guys, let's be ambitious. Let's work together, and let's decarbonize road freight soon. Thank you.